And I think this is why a lot of people really, they're just like, man, I will rent. I'll just rent forever. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I want to tell you about when we first sold our home. Leave me a comment. Let me know what your experience has been with this market and how we ended up in a terrible situation, the worst that we could have imagined actually happened. So if you've been watching the channel, you know that back in a couple of years ago, we sold our main home, which was in a cute little neighborhood. It was conveniently located. It was close to town. It was close to all of the great amenities that most people love. It was a great space. We bought in a great location, which gave us a tremendous return on our investment. But we ran into a little snafu. I'm going to call it a snafu, even though it was much bigger than a snafu. When we went to close on our main property, at the same time we were buying another. It turned out that we could not get a clear title, and someone else had a financial interest in the property that we were actually buying. How? And so where does that leave us? Homeless. At the time, we had no truck, we had no RV, but we had to quickly come up with a plan so that we could get the family into safe housing. And 2 years ago, the market was really popping. Even though we were looking tirelessly, we were working with our realtor to go find a home that would be good for us, since we had lost out on that property. The people were not trying to work with us on the property. And therefore, we had to go on a house search. We had to start our home search over again.
Are you serious?
And the last thing that we wanted was to overpay for a house. We went to numerous homes, just super disappointed, because if you're familiar with the Tallahassee area, you're not gonna really get the greatest home for what we wanted to pay for a home. And for the homes that were actually nice homes, they were on really small pieces of land. And so we quickly ruled that out. We didn't want an HOA. We didn't want the small pieces of land anymore. That's why we were leaving the one that we had invested in years earlier, because we wanted more space. We actually wanted some land. We actually wanted to be able to be out on the land, growing our own food, working the land, and really just enjoy some freedom, a lot more space than what we had on our third of an acre. We just wanted out. We were over it. We were over the petty neighbors. We were over it. We were over all of that. And so what we wanted to do was to get outside of town so that we could have a little sense of freedom and really get to enjoy our land, enjoy our family on our land, host parties and all of that type of stuff without people having to park on the side of the road. Like, we didn't want to do that anymore. We wanted to have a life where we could entertain. We're entertainers. We love it. And we wanted to make sure that if we were going to buy a house, we were looking for houses that had 2 acres or more. That would have given us plenty of space. But those are really few and far in between when it comes to the Tallahassee area, and to actually get them for a reasonable price. We really didn't want to spend a terrible amount of money with trying to get a house and then have to go into that house and still renovate it. And that's what we kept running into. We kept running into houses that were in our price range that we were willing to pay for, but those houses, they needed work, and we could have done it, but we didn't want to. And even though we didn't want to, we were like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and just put in the work. We'll do whatever we have to do to renovate the house, to get it to where we would feel comfortable living in it. Remember, the market was crazy at the time. And so we kept getting beat out on these houses. Not small amounts, but $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 type of increases on these homes that were nowhere near worth that. We were just only willing to pay so much because we know better than overpaying for a house. Always our strategy, if we had to buy a house that was pre-existing, then we were definitely going to buy the ugly house in the nice neighborhood that is going to be a great location. That's going to give us a lot of return on our investment. So that was our strategy. That was not working. Everybody was willing to pay way, 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 way more than what these houses were truly worth. And being in the real estate industry, my husband and I, we both know that at some point, the slowdown is going to happen. I wouldn't call it a crash, but we know that at some point a slowdown is going to absolutely happen. And all of the people who bought homes at these super inflated prices were going to be very, very disappointed once they could not get out of that home without costing them a whole lot of money. Never. If you're looking for a home right now, don't ever buy a super inflated home. The main reason is probably obvious to everyone, is that you're not going to get the amount of equity out of your home if you're paying over the value of the actual home.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And why is equity important? Because that's where you're going to get your money from. If anything happens to the home, if you need a new roof in a couple of years, if something happens, if your AC unit goes out and you don't have warranties and all of this stuff, you're going to need equity in that home in order to get those $15,000 and $20,000 if you don't have a family member who is willing to give you the money. And I think this is why a lot of people really, they're just like, man, I will rent. I'll just rent forever. I won't deal with that. I'll never have $15,000 just sitting around. And then if something happens to my roof, then what am I supposed to do? If my AC unit goes out, what am I supposed to do? And I truly understand that. This is why it's also important to live below your means so that you are able to put that money aside. If you think about it, if you put $100 per month to the side for major expenses, if you bought a house that had a decent roof on it, that had a decent AC unit, then say in the next 10 years, if you then needed one, do the math. $100 times 12 months, that's $1,200, times 5 years, that's $6,000, and just double that if you're talking about 10 years. So you'll be in a really, really great position just to save a small amount of money per month when finding a home that is not overpriced. So that's always one of our strategies, to get into places, location, to be able to get the highest amount of equity as humanly possible out of our home. And so many people are just like, that's too much, I'm just not going to do that. And that's okay. It's just not for you. If you're not willing to, and if you continue to rent, then you're still doing the work, because your rent is going to continuously increase. And once you walk away, you're only going to walk away with a bill from renting. Now, mind you, in certain cases, then yeah, it's great to rent if you're not going to put down roots in one place and be willing to stay and gain some equity. If you're going to live in a place and like the place and really enjoy the place, really be careful about making sure that you're paying a fair price for the house. And if you're not able to get a home that's at a fair price, that's not really overinflated, and you really know if you're in a market that is overinflated, I would say just don't do it at all, because you're going to end up having to pay in order to get out of the house. We saw this one house that was just perfect. One thing that I always wanted was an in-ground swimming pool. This house was California style. It was stucco. It was solid. It was a great house. And the only thing that we would have had to do to the house would have been to renovate the kitchen, because the kitchen looked like a 1950s, like it was bad. It looked like a 1950s kitchen. But this house was so great overall, we were willing to put the money into renovating this kitchen. But we got beat out of that house. The amount that we got beat out by was astronomical.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. Let me tell you, we don't care.
And I really hate to think what that person is going through now if they're not willing to just sit there for the next 10 years and let the market recover. But if they need to move anytime soon, it's going to be a bad situation when you're paying close to $100,000 more than what the house is worth. It's just not worth it. Sometimes it's better to rent. If you've had a bad experience in this real estate market, leave me a comment below and let me know about it. If you made it to this point in the video, leave me a purple heart in the comment section so that I'll know that you made it. Share, like, and subscribe with the notification bell on so that you'll know each time I upload a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.